Really nice stitch for you now if you want to fill in a small area with a blackwork stitch. So this is the one we're going to do here. So quite a nice simple stitch, and it consists of squares done on the diagonal to give us diamonds, and then just half of that square has a vertical stitch in it. I'm just going to build up the shape with that stitch. So it's best worked on the diagonal. So I'm going to put my knot on the top outside the petal here, just to keep that out of the way. Travel the thread underneath the back and start on this side of the petal, like so. So that thread's underneath there, and that will get covered by the stitches as I stitch down. And I'm going to work the squares first. So always down into a shared hole if you can. I'm just going to go on the diagonal. So every stitch now is on the diagonal. It's going diagonally across from one hole to the next, down into there. And I find just putting in that little extra stitch from the centre while I'm doing the square is the best way to do it. So come right up in the middle of the square, show you like that, and then vertically upwards. You can do them all vertically downwards if you want to, but just do them all the same way, because it becomes a different stitch otherwise. So that's one square. So I'm going to work diagonally down my shape this way and put in the second square, like so, and then up in the centre, vertically down at the top, just to put that extra stitch in. That's all there is to it really. So just keep making the rows of squares first, and then putting that extra central stitch in. You can come down and work all your squares if you like and come back and put in that extra stitch. It's however you find it the easiest to do. But it's a nice small stitch, and often you do want a little small area to fill in, and it fills it in quite densely. And I'm using 2 strands of a stranded cotton here, so if you used a thicker thread you'd get more coverage and make your whole shape look darker. Or if you want it to look a bit finer, a little bit more open, you could go down to a finer thread. And don't forget, when you get to the edge, you have to do your compensating. So you have to compensate for the count of the stitch at the edge of the petal. And this happens, so this one would be right there. That's right on that design line, so I'm going to come up there with that one. The design line will get covered by something else. I'm not going to worry about this stitch here. There should be one there, but that's right on the line, and that will get covered, and it's the same colour as the line, so I'm actually not going to worry about that stitch. Leave that one out, and don't forget to put the middle one in. So you choose where you start and stop your stitches, so just keep the pattern going as long as you can. So this one, for example, I'm going to work back up here now, and this one would go down there. Now that is outside the line, you can see that there. So I'm not going to put that one in, but what I'm going to do is just cheat a little bit and come to the line and just take the needle through the fabric on the line. If I don't put that one in and do that, I'm going to get a bit of a gap later, so just make that decision. If you can't quite reach the hole and you think there's going to be a gap, just shorten it a little bit, and so you've still got the shape of that square there. And then back up to the other side of the petal. Doesn't require too much counting, this stitch, so it's a nice one to not have to think about too much. Once you get into the pattern, you can just stitch your squares. If you want to make it bigger, you can count 2 diagonal holes instead of 1, and your stitch will be twice the size. So you can have a larger version of this stitch as well if you want to. So I'll just get to the top of the petal and show you how to compensate that side. So I can get a whole one in there, that comes in just inside the line. The smaller stitches are easier to compensate for, you've got more choice about where you go with it. So there's the top bit. So I've got a little bit of a gap down here between my stitches and my design line. That might get covered with an outline because I'm not sure what outline I'm putting around it. I'm just going to do that little cheat that I did the other side. So it would be there if I'm joining that one up, but it's outside the line. So I'm just going to bring the needle up, pierce the fabric with the needle. I'm using a tapestry needle which has got a blunt point, but it will go through the fabric. There we go, and just put that on, and that just fills up the space, keeps the count going, and then if I put an edge around it and it doesn't meet the stitch, it won't show. So just back and forth all the way to the bottom, and then I'll join you again at the bottom and show you how to finish off. Okay, so I'm nearly at the bottom now. It doesn't matter what shape you're filling in, just keep that pattern going. Compensate when you get to the edges of your shape. This one gets quite narrow at the bottom, but because it's a small stitch, I don't have any trouble keeping those diamonds going. That one fits perfectly in the bottom. So the last few stitches, I can get that one into the edge there. That comes on my line, and then just one more from the centre out to the top, and then I think we're done. I've just noticed a little missing one there, so I'm just going to put that one in. I'm not far away, so I can just move across and put that one in. Just check my edge, and there we go. Really nice small stitch with small areas and a small blackwork filling of small diamonds.